Well, without a doubt, Week 10's best game will take place on Sunday night in Chicago when the 7-1 Houston Texans travel up there to face the 7-1 Chicago Bears. Chicago is currently installed as a 1-point favorite in this game on BETDAQ. 41 is a total. These are two elite teams. There's no weaknesses here. Houston is second in the NFL in points scored and fourth in points allowed. Chicago, third in points scored and second in points allowed. So what will give in this game on Sunday night? Prognosticators obviously expect this to be a low-scoring defensive struggle. 41, a very low total when you're talking about two offenses that are in the top three in the NFL in points per game. But these offenses are never going to be confused with New England or New Orleans or Green Bay. What I mean by that, these are not spread it out, throw it all over the field type offenses. Both teams can throw the ball, but both teams have really developed into run-first teams. The Houston Texans, 3 or 4 years ago, they were a pass-first team. They passed to set up the run, but now Arian Foster has emerged as the best player on this offense. Houston has been riding him this season. He's one of the best running backs in the NFL, and they've obviously had great success. Again, they've won 7 out of their 8 games. They're second in the league in points scored. I do think the Texans are going to have to pass the ball a little bit more if they want to win this game, though, because if you're going to get Chicago, you've got to get them in the secondary. Chicago is great in the front 7, but only average in the secondary. 16th in the NFL right now in pass defense. Now, that's an improvement from where they were last year. You remember last year, the secondary really was the Achilles heel of this Bears team, so they're better. Still, though, the Bears are better in the front end on defense than they are in the back end. I do think Houston is going to need to open up the playbook a little bit here. I do not think the same is true of Chicago. The Bears run-first team. They've run the ball really well this season with Matt Forte and Michael Bush. And they're 29th in the league in passing yards. Now, that might surprise you because so much of the talk this season with the Chicago Bears has been about Brandon Marshall, the wide receiver they acquired from the Miami Dolphins in the offseason. For the first time in so many years, Chicago now has a legitimate number 1 go-to wide receiver. And Brandon Marshall has really helped the offense. You can see the comfort level Jay Cutler has with this guy. Of course, they played together several years ago in Denver, but Cutler trusts Brandon Marshall. Marshall's opened up the field a little bit. Maybe he's part of the reason that Matt Forte and Michael Bush have had so much success running the ball this season, but I think it's a little bit more by design. It's not just because Chicago's had big leads in several games, like last week against Tennessee. It's not just because they've run the ball so well this season. I think it's by design. They've taken the ball out of Jay Cutler's hands a little bit. Cutler, when he's at his best, can be as good as any quarterback in the league. He can also be as bad as any quarterback in the league. Chicago's one loss this season to Green Bay was a meltdown performance from Jay Cutler, and we've seen that throughout his career. That was not an aberration from Jay Cutler. Sometimes he'll just have a game where he throws multiple interceptions, takes multiple sacks, been known for a surly attitude. People have questioned his desire, whether he's a winner. And I'm not, it's not that I'm being harsh saying that. That's Jay Cutler's reputation, or has been in the NFL. He's been able to avoid that this season in every game but one. But again, they've largely taken it out of his hands. Chicago, as I said, only 29th in the league in pass yards per game. And I think Jay Cutler's performance is going to be key, maybe the deciding factor in this game on Sunday night. Jay Cutler, to me, is a mix of Brett Favre and Rex Grossman. What I mean by that, all 3 of those quarterbacks have big arms. All 3 of those guys sort of gunslinger types. They like to force it into coverage and take chances. Brett Favre rode that style of play all the way to the NFL Hall of Fame, or he will be a Hall of Famer anyway, one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. Rex Grossman, former Bears quarterback, was sort of a laughingstock while he was a quarterback in Chicago, even though he did lead them to a Super Bowl, and he's now a backup in Washington. Jay Cutler, when he's at his best, can be Favre. When he's at his worst, can be Grossman. He's somewhere in between. They're going to need him to be more Favre-like if they want to win this game on Sunday night, because the Texans are a really, really good team. And I think Jay Cutler is the reason the Bears haven't gotten quite as much respect as the Texans this season. Both these teams 7-1, but outside of Chicago, you haven't heard a whole lot of people talk about the Bears as the best team in the NFL, and you have heard that said about the Texans. And quite frankly, Jay Cutler is the reason I lean towards the Texans in this ball game. Now, anything could happen here. I mean, this is obviously a near pick'em spread, so I don't have a whole lot of confidence in recommending the Texans here, but I don't trust Jay Cutler. It might not surprise you given the last couple of minutes what I've said about him, but do not trust this guy. I do trust Matt Schaub and this Texans team, even though the Texans defense has slipped a little bit since Brian Cushing went down with injury. I have a slight lean towards Houston here. That being said, hey, I did not expect Chicago to be 7-1 at this point. I've been underestimating the Bears all season. I would not be the least bit surprised if Chicago were to win this game on Sunday night. Another bet I lean towards here is the over. 41 is the total. I know these are two great defenses, but they're two good offenses as well. And the Bears, not only do they stop people on defense, they score points. Lovie Smith's defenses always take away the ball. This year is no exception. They are taking away the ball. They're scoring themselves. Chicago on pace to set an NFL record for most defensive touchdowns scored in a season. So if the Texans want to win this game, they're going to have to take care of the ball. They've been doing a good job of that so far this season. I have a slight lean towards Houston here, and I lean towards over 41. But anything could happen in this game. I'm just looking forward to watching this game. Should be a great one on Sunday Night Football.